there's four major components when it comes to your background investigation, what the investigator is really looking at the peak of everything. One of them is your credit history and your credit score. Let's discuss. Hey, welcome. If you're new, welcome back. If you're returning, down below, we have gifts for you, gifts from me to you. One of them is the Getting Started workshop. It's going to walk you through every phase of the hiring process so you know what you're getting, what's in there, and some hidden bonuses as well. So you can see where you stack up, give you a good start off point when you go through your hiring process. Additionally, if you have something more specific to you, to your hiring process, any questions you want to know, you can sign up for a free coaching call with me. We'll sit down, we'll discuss your hiring process and see how I think or what you think you will need to move forward. Now, your credit score or your credit history, more importantly, your credit history, not so much your score. Your score is just a quick look at something and then we say, oh, maybe we need to dive into this. But your credit history, a lot of times people underestimate their credit history. They go into this and they say, oh, I'm a strong candidate, everything's great. However, most people don't realize if you have poor credit history, a bad credit score, it's very difficult to get cleared for a security clearance. And what do I mean by a security clearance? All law enforcement need at least a minimum of a public trust security clearance. That means you can have access to select databases that provide you with information about individuals, right? And then additionally, the ability to detain individuals. There's a whole lot that goes into a public trust. Now, this could go all the way up to a top secret SCI with, certain federal agencies, depending on what you're doing. It just depends, but at a minimum of public trust. So in order to get cleared for a security clearance, you need to have good moral character, right? No criminal history, or I shouldn't say no criminal history, no significant criminal history. You need to have good work history. You need to have mitigated illegal substance abuse or use, or mitigated substance use. I shouldn't say no substance abuse or no current substance abuse. And then you need good credit history. And the reason you need good credit history is because as a law enforcement officer or a security clearance, or in order to get a security clearance, we need to make sure that, one, you can't be bribed, right? That you have a good financial standing. And if you don't have a good financial standing, it opens you up to potential bribery and something that law enforcement officers may deal with in their career. It happens depending on who you're in contact with. So not to mention the access of information you have, that's why it's called a public trust security clearance. So with that being said, a bad credit score, ultimately a bad credit history, because your credit score reflects your credit history as an overall tally. A bad credit history is a surefire way to fry your security clearance, your public trust security clearance, or higher, right? The higher it goes, the more scrutiny that happens. So if you're bouncing around a 500, right, that is a very bad credit score. They say between, and I'll have to look this up, I'm spitballing it off the top of my head right now, but they say between 600 and 700 is fair, right? Let me rephrase that. Usually between 600 and 675 is fair, right? Once you get, I would still say 700, but once you get to 700, about 700 to about 780 is good. And then anything over 70, 80 is pretty much an excellent credit score. But ultimately, it doesn't come down to that. It comes down to your credit history. You could have a good credit score now, but bad credit history in the past. Excuse me, I'm still fighting that cold. But bad credit history in the past. And that's something that really affects you when it comes to your security clearance or your overall hiring process because of your background phase. If you're going to go into this and you have issues in your credit history, a question that I ask all my coaching members, doesn't matter if they're doing my one-on-one coaching or my group coaching, is has anything ever been repossessed? And do you have anything, or has anything ever been sent to collections? And if someone says, yes, I've had something sent to collections, now at this point, I'm asking you, okay, how long ago? Is it still in collections? And if they say yes, then I start asking the question, okay, if it's still in collections right now, what are you doing to mitigate that? I'll be honest with you, as as law enforcement organizations go and for security clearance, it doesn't really matter if something's in collections. It does, right? That negatively affects your credit score. That shows us that you didn't have a updated, that you didn't have the ability to control your finances before. But I don't care if you're making a payment to the bank, to a medical facility, or to the collections agency. As long as you're making the payments now, that is all that matters. And if you make those payments now, you're good to go. In regards that, hey, I'd be willing for a public trust clearance to say, hey, this individual did have something sent to collections. However, they are up to date on it. They're making the payments as the prescribed manner. You're good to go. The downside to this is a lot of people say, oh, I have things in collections. I'm going to do debt reconciliation. The problem with that is when you do that, they say, hey, stop making any payments while we negotiate terms with all your debtors or collectors, whichever term fits that. And from there, just don't make any payments, then we'll get it all in one lump sum, and then we'll pay it all off, and then you pay us. Except that fries your credit score initially, right? And if you're going through the hiring process, anytime your credit score gets tanked, it takes longer to bring it back up than it does to go down, even if you're consolidating and making routine payments, because all you're doing is making routine payments to one location, right? That's it. That you're better off. This is not financial advice, right? You're better off finding a small personal loan that has a very low interest rate, such as, and when I say low interest rate, you're not going to find that these days, but a low interest rate so that you could consolidate it yourself, take that loan, pay off all your debts, and just pay back that loan. That is not financial advice. I am not recommending that. I would say do Dave Ramsey's snowball method, where you pay off your lowest debt first, live on, bare minimum, and then go from there. But I'm not a financial advisor. So look into it. There's a million different resources out there to find yourself how to handle these situations. And maybe we'll do some additional training on that later and add it to the online course or upload it here for you. But regardless, you want to make sure you're mitigating those issues. And you do want to get things out of collections. That way you can say, yes, I did have something in collections, but I paid it off and got it taken care of. That sounds great. I can bypass that. I can just say, oh, hey, why did it go to collections? There was a financial issue at the time, or COVID-19 happened and I was unemployed, or whatever the reason is. It doesn't matter, but you paid it off, which means you honored your obligation. Okay, that's what I care about. Next, if it's still in collections, I would say, hey, are you making payments on it, or are you in an agreement with them? Are you working on an agreement? And if you're not making payments, at least be contacting them and say, hey, I'm trying to work out some type of agreement with you. And then that way you can say to your background investigator, yes, I do have something in collections. However, it is being negotiated right now to get taken care of. Okay, that sounds great. Good. The worst thing you can do, the worst, is say, hey, I'm not touching it at all. I have a collections bill in there that's $1,000 and it's from 4 years ago, and I'm not paying it. It's just tanking your credit score, and you want to become a law enforcement officer and you want to get a security clearance. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen if you're not doing anything, because it shows that you're not responsible fiscally with money. So why would we give you access to people's information that could be misused or could be bribed out of you for money? And there's more than just that way of looking at it. So keep that in mind. That's where security clearance comes into play. And that's one thing that can hurt you when people say, oh, my credit's bad, but that's not going to affect me. No, that is one of the major 4 factors. Keep that in mind. A lot of things you can do there, a lot of things you need to address, and a lot of things that I would really work on when it comes to your credit history. A lot of people say, hey, no substance use, no criminal activity, great work history. Oh, how's your credit history? It's so-so. That's still one of the major 4, and that can deny you employment with any department if they choose to not move forward with you. Keep that in mind. Remember, those gifts are down in the description. The Getting Started workshop is going to walk you through everything you need to. Plus, there's some hidden bonuses in there that will really help you along your way. Additionally, that free coaching call with myself, if you really want to talk about your specific situation, your credit history, anything, I can give you some of those techniques that I've learned along the way from other mentors of mine that have allowed me to be financially successful and to make sure that I keep my security clearance eligibility at its top. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.